In general, an infectious disease is a disease caused by an infectious agent. And an infectious agent could be a bacteria, so something like E. coli, which we heard about recently with the romaine lettuce outbreak, a virus like HIV, a fungus. There's parasites, protozoa. There are prions, which are infectious proteinaceous materials or proteins, like what cause mad cow disease. So that's one way.
What is that?
So
that last one.
It's a prion. So a prion is, unlike anything that we've seen cause an infectious disease, it is actually a malformed protein that gets into your body and then sets off a cascade of malformation of other proteins like it and leads to diseases like mad cow disease. And they're very scary, very mysterious, and very new to science. So there's tons of mystery with prions. And they are a rising issue because we have another prion disease in the United States, more in the Midwest, called chronic wasting disease, which is killing deer and elk. And there's a lot of concern whether this prion has the ability to jump into the human species. So there are active studies going on looking at people who butcher deer and elk and hunt deer and elk and eat deer and elk, trying to see if there are any early signs of infection there. But prions are very interesting because they're so small, they're very hard to diagnose, they're very hard to deactivate, and there are no treatments for them. And that's why mad cow disease was such a scary issue when it appeared in the late 1990s, early 2000s in England.
Gotcha. Okay, so those...
Right.
Different classifications.
Yeah, those are the
infectious disease.
Yeah, that's like the etiologic agents or what causes the infection. And then there's other ways to break down infectious diseases. For example, communicable versus non-communicable. And this is something the general public gets wrong a lot because they think infectious means contagious. That doesn't necessarily mean contagious. So there's an infectious disease called tetanus. Everybody gets a tetanus shot every 10 years. That is an infection that you get, but it's not transmissible from person to person. So when you think about what can cause a pandemic or what's going to cause an epidemic, what's going to be very scary, it's going to have to be a transmissible or contagious infectious disease, something like influenza, not something like tetanus.
Now, what's the point of, because I remember a while ago I volunteered at a hospital and had to get a tetanus shot for that. I guess I assumed it was so I wouldn't spread it to anyone in the hospital.
No, that's probably not the case because tetanus can't be spread from person to person. You get tetanus from the environment. But in general, hospitals like to have all their employees as vaccinated as possible so that they're not getting sick. And the tetanus shot also contains other things in it. So, for example, the tetanus shot that you get will likely contain a vaccine against diphtheria, which is communicable, as well as pertussis, which is highly communicable. So often the tetanus shot is coupled with other things. So that's why hospitals like to keep people immunized against tetanus. But remember, you're in a hospital, you might get a needle stick. There could be tetanus bacteria that you could get. You could get cut in the hospital. So tetanus is something that people routinely get immunized against in all walks of life.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching the episode. If you're interested in contributing to the conversation and supporting the show, there's 2 easy things you can do. 1, click subscribe, and 2, visit our Patreon page where you get exclusive access to the Exploring Minds community.